everyone, good afternoon. Grace Estervo here. I'm glad you're watching this video today with me. I have some things to talk to you about related to ways that we cheat ourselves from truly actually owning our power, owning our intuition, owning our knowledge, basically owning our wisdom. And the reason I'm talking to you about this is because I've been having a ton of conversations, primarily with women, and I'm starting to pick up some trends in these conversations, some areas where people are primarily struggling, and where I see that I've been through some of this myself, where there are ways that we can make some shifts to allow ourselves to go through things with a whole lot more ease, a whole lot less stress, and actually, more importantly, honoring who we really are. You know, that capacity to try to balance doing it all while at the same time remaining true to yourself. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. So hang around for a couple of minutes because I have a really succinct message for you, and I'm going to tell you a story about myself as well. So the reason I titled this Don't Cheat Yourself is because the conversations I've been having with almost every single person I would say over the last month and a half have been related to people. Basically, people are sharing with me that they're going through some sort of change. Something has changed in their life. And change isn't always negative. There's a lot of conversations I've had where people have had positive change. Hey, Jan. Where people have had positive change. You know, either everything's working out well, things are going good in their career, they finally landed that job they really wanted, you name it. Or their kids are graduated and everything's going well and they have amazing children. There's also the kind of change where something is imposed on you, right? Like change that either you have a new boss and it's not that great, the situation, or a relationship is ending and that's just a painful experience in itself. You name it, change, whether it's positive or negative, whatever we want to title things, is not something that we're very adept to handling. It's not something that in general we have a lot of skills for. We haven't been taught to manage it very well, and unfortunately most of us tend to resist it. And here's the thing, we don't tend to resist the change just happens. It happens to us. The kind of situations change in our life, even if we seek out the change. The challenge is we basically resist the transition that the change brings. You know, something changes in your life and it impacts the life of you and other people involved. So I want to provide support for you for this kind of uncomfortable growth moment, a kind of a situation that the reason that we tend to, hey Brittany, the reason that we tend to have so much resistance to transitions is because we have resistance to how it feels. We have resistance, hi Jessica, we have resistance to the self-doubt that pops up. I should have this under control. Why am I taking so long with this? How come I can't figure it out? How come this feels so bad? I should be happier. I should feel this. I should that. We resist the feelings of the transition. We have resistance to the uncertainty. I mean, when change pops into your life, whether it's through a relationship or a change related to your work, you name it, the uncertainty, there's questions that you don't have answers to. There just are. And man, do we love control, don't we? We hate things that we don't have answers to, especially quick answers. So I want to just help you recognize that it's likely that you're not resisting the change, you're resisting the emotional aspect of the transition. So uncertainty is very uncomfortable to experience for most of us who are kind of control freaks, right? And the self-doubt, the questionings, I should have this, I should know better, I should have an answer right now, I should, you name it, you should all over yourself, don't you? Then when there's uncertainty, you have more mental noise than ever. The chatter in your head gets louder because the minute that we don't have things all figured out, our mind pops into just self-questioning, questioning of others. You want to reach conclusions. Well, this must mean that. Well, this must mean that. Well, if this doesn't happen, then that. It's exhausting, right, Brittany? It's exhausting. And on top of that, then we tend to not be so qualified to handle all this uncertainty, all these feelings, all these doubts and questions. So our normal reaction to transitions is we want to speed through it. We want to go through it fast. I just want to feel better. I just want to know. I just want to know how it's going to happen. We basically rush through the experience. And I'm here to invite you to take a deep breath with me right here as you're watching and just go as best you can to recognize that it's likely that what you're resisting is the transition and the emotions that it brings, the changes that you might have to consider, how it affects others, the conversations that you might have to have, just your feelings in general. That there's nothing wrong with you that you're in transition. In fact, that is actually usually, for most of us, a time of insane growth. So much potential for growth happens when you're in transition. And what we tend to do is we cheat ourselves. We just basically rush through it. We just control something and we want to run into the next thing. And we miss out on just an incredible amount of clarity, wisdom, self-understanding, self-awareness, and peace. Quite a bit of peace. So I'm here to help you with this part of, so what do you do when things are just like shifting like this? And it's like, this is kind of changing, and this means you have to have this conversation, and this likely means I have to now go deal with that and figure that out, right? And the last thing you feel like is peace. But that's probably the thing that you're dying to feel like, just inner peace, and that you can trust yourself, and that you can trust that things are going to be okay. So how do you do that? I'm gonna share with you a story of something I went through last year that completely exemplifies this part of, I wasn't so much resisting the change, but man, did I have a hard time with the transition. And I learned a lot by not rushing it. So one of my key areas of growth in my life is without a doubt like relationships, men-women relationships. In general, it's an area that I give myself completely in, and it's an area of where when there's an ending in that area, I always experience a lot. And I mean a lot. And I've always had incredible relationships. So last year I was in one that was very, very significant to me, and it ended kind of abruptly. And what I experienced in the process was this tendency that I'm talking about, this friction between wanting to feel better right away, wanting to be over it, wanting to be done in the transition, and at the same time an inner clarity of, don't rush this, Grace. This is where you basically, where did it go? Sorry about that. Hello, here I am again. I don't know how that happened, but somehow the video got cut off. So I'm just gonna keep going where I was, and I hope that you are following along, because I was about to share with you my personal story, and one of the stories that really exemplifies this typical tension and struggle and kind of conflict that we go through when we are experiencing transition, and why it's so difficult to go through it. So last year, a very significant relationship ended for me, and I was brokenhearted, without a doubt. I was definitely experiencing a lot of change, and initially I was resisting the change, right? I wasn't quite ready for what happened. But what came from that was I just somehow knew internally, it was like honoring the feminine internal wisdom, that I needed to not rush this process. So while I have some people in my life and a lot of influence in my life of just like dust yourself off and get going and feel better and all of that good stuff, and for some things that's actually really accurate advice, in this situation, and I also want to clarify, I was very functional, I was still working and all of that. It was such a significant transition. I felt my identity needed to change. I had been in this partnership for a while. I started to feel myself part of a partnership instead of just an individual. You name it, you can interpret that as you want. But this is what happens when change comes our way. We have a shift inside of us, and that shift tends to be uncomfortable. We don't know how to work our way through that. So I had to give myself room, time, space, and permission to fully feel my way through that transition. And the good thing is, I have a lot of practices, I have a lot of tools, I have a very strong meditation experience that I can pull from, different styles of meditation. I went on a lot of long walks by myself. I had exceptional support, really like tight support. And sorry about that, I don't know what's happening with Facebook. And I gave myself just room to transition, to experience that shift. And at the same time, I have to say, I was just observing. I was just kind of going, wow, every single aspect of any self-doubt that I ever have had comes up. Any single part of myself that still potentially compares herself to others comes up. Any fear about the future, or how is this going to work out, and now what, and how do I do this, came up. Any aspect of just like mental chatter and noise and doubts and fears, it all came up. And I'm usually in general, I'm a very strong person. I'm someone who's gone through a lot of adversity. So in a way, I've built a big resilience muscle. And yet this thing challenged me. It was a painful ending. And I had to dance this dance of, yes, take care of yourself, of course. Stand up and do your thing, go work and give, which my work gives me a lot of purpose, a lot of satisfaction. I love what I do. And yet I was in the challenge. I have to be honest, I was in that battle of, I don't know if I know how to do this. I don't have it all together. I kept thinking, I wish I was going through this faster, but I wasn't. And you know what I learned? Thank God I didn't rush through it. Thank God I wasn't like ready to go in a month or 3 weeks or whatever it is. Thank God I trusted myself to slow down, mourn, complete some things, find closure, you name it. And in the process of allowing myself to go through each step of the way, so much clarity, peace, and wisdom came that it washed away all of that self-doubt and questioning and all that stuff. But what I see is, I share this with you because up until probably 2-3 years in my life, I was one of the people who wanted to rush through transitions. I was one of the people who was just like, this is uncomfortable, let's keep running really, really fast. Let's on to the next project, on to the next person, on to the next big distraction, you name it. I was definitely like that. And what I'm here to share with you is I've learned that there is magic, like truly the capacity to own yourself, to own your wisdom, to own your inner voice and your inner guidance, to own the clarity of why something works, why it's meant to change, which by the way, everything's constantly changing. We just weren't taught to deal with it very well, but everything is constantly changing and needs to. You are constantly changing, and thank God you are. So this thing of honoring the space you're in, when you are like, you have that sense of that's not me anymore, that doesn't work for me anymore, or my life changed and that those things don't work. I can't go out with single friends anymore. I have a child, or I have a baby, or you name it, whatever the change is. It no longer, and the space in between before this is what's next, is this raw, incredible space of growth for you, for your soul, for your heart, for your clarity, for who you're here to be. And I want to invite you to really just consider, if you're right now in some sort of change or transition, which most of you are based on the conversations I'm having, see how you can honor that more and drop some of the rush you have about it. Because it doesn't have to be suffering, it doesn't even have to be that difficult, but you do want to honor that you right now are in the middle of this, limbo. It's no longer that, it kind of isn't that over here yet, you don't even know what it is yet. So limbo is uncomfortable, even when it's amazing. even when like the change is just incredible, it's still outside of our comfort zone. So this is an incredible time in your life for you to unlearn some of the things that were accurate from this past moment and this space that no longer apply to where you're going. And I'm here to tell you, from my perspective, you don't need another course, you don't need another workshop, you don't hardly need another book. It's time to unlearn so that you can gain the knowledge that you have inside yourself if you let yourself go through this process and this transition. And so my advice is slow it down, get yourself some significant support, good people who can hold space for you without any judgment, and give yourself permission for this to take as long as it takes. And honestly, this is why I've created this next part of my work, which I want to share with you. I'm going to put the links below. It's basically, I deconstructed what it's taken me to, hey Carolyn, I've deconstructed what it's taken me to successfully navigate transitions. Because I've been through many. In fact, I was on the phone with Carolyn earlier today. I was sharing with her some of the different things I've experienced. And I really just, when I've been talking to women over the last few months and just knowing, gosh, people are going through a lot. There's change happening in their lives. And the fact that they feel like they don't have the support they need, that just drives me crazy into action. And so I've created this program, and it's basically 90 days of support for you to be able to say, there's a lot going on and I need some help, and I need some help to not rush through it and actually honor the space in between things in your life, whether your work is changing or your family relationships are changing or your relationship, whichever aspect of change. It brings up the same stuff. It almost doesn't matter which change it is. It brings up the same uncertainty and discomfort and maybe even mental noise. So I've created a program. I'd love for you to check it out. It's basically no modules, no to-dos, no checklists, none of that. It's support. It's basically support for you to really be heard, be seen, be able to have a vulnerable space to go, here's where I'm at, I don't know where I'm going, or here's where I'm going and it's bringing up all these things. It's a place for you to be held in a very safe environment for you to go, okay, this is what's happening. And in a way, because it's so safe and it's without just a whole bunch of information coming at you that you have to process, for you to start to really listen to yourself and really hear the fruits of what's happening. Carolyn says, it's much more of the program. It's a sacred movement of support. Thank you. I agree. So I've created this, honestly, it's just a gift from my heart. We start at the end of August, and I'm going to give you a link so you can check it out. It's a container for you to have your wisdom come to light through the changes that you're experiencing. Feminine wisdom mostly is for women only, and it's really about moving forward with as much ease and connection to yourself and to your wisdom as you can. So that's it for today. I want to keep it tight. I wanted to just share with you what I'm up to. I'm super excited. This is the evolution of my work. We're going to have, of course, some tools and things in there related to how to connect, how to stay true to yourself within everything that's happening in your life. Because, you know, God knows we're trying to do it all, be it all, all. And the reality is, how do you stay so centered in yourself that you can hear what's next, that you can hear what no longer works, that you can move forward with what does work, even if it's brand new to you, or even if it's just some tweaks. But a place where you can finally take off the mask and go, I'm tired of being strong. I'm tired of doing it all by myself. I am just going to express myself very honestly and be listened and heard back and held in that. So that's my next evolution of my work, and I am passionate about it, and I hope you give it a check it out. Basically, I hope you check it out. Have a beautiful afternoon, and that's it for today. Goodbye.